Hi, welcome to the Huntersville Mayoral Forum. This is a collaboration between the Charlotte Observer, Neighborhood TV, and Channel 9 Eyewitness News. I'm Josh Bergeron with the Charlotte Observer.
And I'm Joe Bruno with Channel 9. Current Mayor Melinda Bales is not running, so we have three candidates battling for her seat. We are joined today by those three people, Derek Partee, Dan Boone, and Christy Clark. And before we get started, a big thank you to Red Rocks Cafe here in Birkdale Village for hosting us this afternoon.
So here's how it's going to work. Joe and I are going to each ask questions, and candidates are going to have a minute to respond. Each candidate gets 2 minutes to answer as a group and 4 minutes after. Before the first question, each candidate, we're going to give you a chance to say hello in alphabetical order. So let's start in alphabetical order with Miss Christy Clark.
Sir, that would be Dan.
Yeah,
Boone.
Dan
Boone.
That's right.
We were going alphabetical by first name.
Oh, okay. All right. I understand as well. Good morning. Thanks for having us here. Really appreciate it. I'm Christy Clark. I used to serve in the General Assembly from 2019 to 2020 as a state house rep. I'm currently working as a teacher at a local elementary school in Huntersville, where I get to see every day the issues that our families in Huntersville face, and have been inspired by that to run for mayor. I'm hoping to bring the resources that I have and access to folks that I gained in Raleigh to Huntersville to help us solve our problems, around things like housing insecurity and traffic and smart growth and all those good things.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Red Rocks, Channel 9, the Charlotte Observer, and Neighborhood TV for hosting this. My name is Dan Boone, and I'd like to be your next mayor of Huntersville. I retired 20-some years ago, and I've been involved in the town with nonprofits. And also, I have taken Huntersville 101 in the Citizens Police Academy. In 2009, I was appointed to the Board of Adjustments, followed by the Planning Board, and rose to the vice chair of both of those boards. 8 years ago, I decided to run for town commissioner, and I have been the Huntersville town commissioner for the past 8 years. I have the experience to be the next mayor of Huntersville.
Good morning. I want to say thank you to Red Rocks. I want to thank you to Channel 9. My name is Derek Partee, and I'm running for mayor. Also, I have over 40 years of public service experience. At the age of 71, I have always endeavored to be a public servant. Right now, I am a retired homicide detective out of Nassau County Police Department. I did 4 years with the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and I was part of 9/11, and I was also there when the towers fell. My commitment to public service started back in 1982 when I got my master's in public administration and my undergraduate degree in psychology. So with that, I want to serve the town of Huntersville. I am presently serving as a commissioner. For the past 2 years, I previously was on the planning board, which gave me the background and also the reference to work with the town managers here in Huntersville. So I want to say thank you to everybody that's present, and let's move forward.
So now we're going to move on to individual questions. Joe and I are going to trade off asking. You'll have 2 minutes to answer these questions. I want to start off with a really timely one. You might have read in the news that Norfolk Southern wrote a letter to the city of Charlotte saying that it's willing to make a deal about a line that isn't used that would be used for the red line. So we want to specifically ask, in light of that, do you support the city of Charlotte's efforts to implement a countywide 1 penny sales tax to help fund its mobility plan, which would include new rail lines like the red line? And then in addition to that, if not, what would be the best way to alleviate traffic woes in the area? And we'll start again in alphabetical order with Miss Christy Clark.
Great. Well, yeah, I used to live in Portland, Oregon, where they have one of the world famous public transportation system there. And so I have been long advocating for increasing our public transportation here. In fact, I was just talking with the young lady here saying, what are you going to do to help me get to work? It takes me 3 hours to get to my job. And so that is a great place for us to start. I think it would be great to have the red line for folks who want to go down and see the Panthers. And it was a lot easier way to get there. It'll get traffic off of I-77. If you've heard about I-77, everybody complains about traffic over there. But it does have to be equitably distributed to the North Mex. So if we're not going to get a fair amount of dollars up here, then we need to have a harder conversation about that. And that's something that I advocate for when I was in Raleigh, and I want to bring back here, is making sure there is a more regional approach to transportation and making sure that up here we have what we need to get folks from point A to point B without having them to take 3 hours to get to work in the morning.
I read the Norfolk Southern email or letter to the mayor of Charlotte. I think that the letter was very vague. You can interpret that by a lot of maybes, maybe nots. I really couldn't support a 1 cent sales tax or any type of tax until I know more about exactly what Norfolk is telling us. We've heard from them before, and it's still a little bit gray to me. I'd like some clarity on the issue. Thank you.
There is no real commitment from Norfolk Southern. A letter does not verify their intent. I would go to the voters here in Huntersville. As mayor, I represent the voters. I don't represent myself. And I want to hear from them exactly what their position is on this 1 cent. Will it benefit us? Will it benefit Charlotte? How are we going to move people back and forth between Huntersville and Charlotte? Do they want that? As an elected official and as a public servant, I'm here. It's not about meism. It's not about I-ism. It's about we-ism. And I want to represent the individual citizens of Huntersville and see what they want. And then I will proceed in that manner.
And so we have a couple minutes for you to discuss this and respond to anything that has been said. I am curious, so do you view the red line as a project still worth pursuing?
We're talking billions of dollars. The rail has to be converted. I mean, it runs both ways. There's a two-way street when it comes to rail. As a former New Yorker who rode the train back and forth to Manhattan every day, there's a need to understand what that cost would be as far as building the rail, what that cost would be for the commuter, because it's not free. It's not like downtown where you can jump on the train and ride a couple stops for free. So therefore, that would have to be evaluated, and I would want to evaluate that also.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and that they also, it does go beyond just the rail line. There will be some land acquisition issues that could cause some issues around housing for folks, or where businesses are currently located, they may be negatively impacted. And so there's a lot more to it than just looking at, putting that red line in and thinking, well, okay, we'll just lay some track down. People will be impacted much farther and wider than what we initially think about. And I've lived here since 2010, and when I moved here, they said there's going to be a red line, and so I'm not going to hold my breath until I actually see pen on ink and a plan that makes sense for North Mech.
I think everybody needs to know what the red line would look like. This is a commuter train. It's a train. It's not like a rail system like we have in Charlotte. I think that we've studied this for twice in the last 8 years. We've spent millions of dollars on 2 different studies, but I think it's something that we have to take a look at, because we have to find a way to relieve the traffic congestion on the interstate and the secondary roads going north and south.
We are sitting here in Red Rocks in the middle of Birkdale Village. It's one of the pride and joys of Huntersville. But the developer says it needs to adapt to survive. Did the Huntersville Town Board make the right decision rejecting Birkdale's plans for an office tower and parking deck? And if Birkdale is brought back before the town board, what would you like to see? We'll start with Commissioner Boone.
Thank you for that question. I voted against the North American Properties venture into the Birkdale Village. I voted against it because of the quality of life that would be affected by the people that live here. There's a project that's being developed now right across Highway 73. Highway 73 is going to be widened, and additional construction in the Birkdale Village would just make this life for these people not the quality of life that I would want to have. Moving forward, if they bring it back to the town board again, I think it'll be something that will have to be looked at, and I would like to see them finish what they've started before they're asking to build additional parking or retail space.
Commissioner Partee.
Birkdale Village has an ambiance that attracted me here to Huntersville, my wife, my sons. I tell the story at one of the board meetings about how I became hooked on Huntersville because of the aesthetics of Birkdale. It had that rural aesthetics, what we call back to the future. And the people that lived here, that's what attracted them also, even in the Birkdale area and the surrounding communities. And to maintain that, they came out and emphatically expressed that they did not want the huge convention center and hotel. As I said before, listening to the community is part of what we do, or what I do as a representative, as their commissioner. Yes, I voted against it. And as they come, if they bring it back, we'll see what the community says and how they approach the new project when it comes forward, or back, if it comes back to the board.
Former Representative Clark.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think if you sat around or you walked around this community and asked the folks that actually live here, they were emphatically against this project. And so, and I've even heard from that, if you're going to get elected, please don't bring this back to us again. They just do not want that here. And so we really have to think about if they bring it back to us and have an idea of what they want to do, they're really going to have to ask those people who live here what they want, because they are going to be the ones that are impacted by it. And it really does come down to what the folks that live in Birkdale want. That they were very clear they did not want what was proposed last time, and we need to make sure that we are listening to them in the future for sure.
So what I hear is some skepticism. Is there any scenario where you can envision supporting changes to Birkdale if the project is brought back to this next board?
I could support it if they, if you know where Lindale is, right next to this, right down the street, and go ahead and connect that over to what I used to call there's an office complex across there. There's a stub at one of the streets. Cut that over into that area. That would take the traffic off of 73 and the light, and people could come to here and have a lunch and do some shopping all within 1 hour. They wouldn't have to spend 20 minutes getting in and out of Birkdale Village. So it's a transportation. I'd also like to see that the town look into it's a transit overlay project. It's called a TOD. It's a residential and commercial. That really needs to be looked at, because if it's a TOD commercial, there could be a 14-story apartment building up here also.
Want to keep going on that same thread, and we'll start with Mr. Partee here for this question. Could you talk a little bit about both at 5 years and then maybe at 10 years, what you would hope that Huntersville would look and feel like culturally and then physically? We're talking about buildings, we're talking about the people who live here. What would you hope for Huntersville to look and feel like in 5 years and then 10 years?
Well, I would hope that we, as a village, and let me put it this way, as mayor, I want to propose, because it came across through a lot of the communities, a architectural review board. And that would try to maintain the aesthetics, the ambiance of Huntersville, that rural feel, sort of mixed in with the growth that's going on now. There has to be, and I should not say has, but working with the planning department, our town, we got some excellent town managers, our town managers and legal, to see how moving forward, we have a 2040 plan. We have to stay within the 2040 plan and work with the developers to make sure that they are within that 2040 plan, and that the aesthetics of what they build the next 5 years satisfies the citizens. I kept saying, it's not about you. You mentioned you, Joe, you. It's not about me as mayor. It's about the community and the board and how we're going to receive their input.
Ms. Clark?
Yeah. So the 2040 plan is the roadmap for Huntersville, is the vision that folks thought we should have. And so we have to make sure we're continually overlaying projects on top of that to make sure that what we want and thought we wanted for Huntersville is actually what's going to happen in the future. But what I want to see is a place where people come here and they raise their families, and maybe their children go off to college and they want to come back here and stay here and raise their families here too. Right now, I feel like it's not a place that you can do that. And that's going to mean a lot of economic development, bringing some companies here that will be able to take access of the wonderful staff and employees we have here that are so smart. We are known for having a strong labor force, and making sure it's a place that really people can call home, and they will always call home. I'm from Roanoke, Virginia. I can tell you that I go back and visit, and I always want to come away, and I never want to stay there. And I don't want people to ever think about Huntersville like that. I want it to be a place where we build a solid foundation for people to want to live here for their lifetimes.
I think the question was next 5 and 10 years. The first 5 years, if I'm elected mayor, I would like to see the road and transportation improvement projects that we've already got funded, $1.1 billion, get those projects completed. From there, when I came to Huntersville, the town had to open their arms to me and welcome me. We have to have a diverse economy. We have to have a diverse community, because that's how we grow and learn and respect from each other. I need to learn from Christy and what makes her tick, and she needs to know the same thing about me. If we're going to grow this town, we've got to listen to everybody, we've got to work together, and we've got to move in a conservative and well-planned out future for the town that we all enjoy living here.
As we talk about that, to drill down into more specifics, are there any specific policies, any specific rules that have to change in order to achieve the visions you talked about? You've sort of talked about the visions, but how would you do that? Are there any specific things that you would do?
Yes, sir. For me, I can only speak for myself, but if we're going to look at workforce housing, you've got to start with exactly what the zoning is. Right now, our zoning is what called form-based zoning. We don't have that many zoning districts, but if you want to have the density to have workforce housing, you're going to have to change the town ordinance so we can have people who protect us, serve us, be able to live in our community.
And either of the other candidates?
I think we would all say the same thing, that we need to look back on the ordinances in the town. As you talk to folks in the area that are focused on attainable and workforce housing, they'll say it's too hard to build like that in Huntersville, and we need to do better. And so there's the current mayor has a wonderful affordable housing task force that's in place. They've done a bunch of work. We need to go back to that and figure out what from they have done to make changes for the future, because if you talk to anybody around here, you're going to say we need more workforce housing here, and we have to change some things to make it easier for folks to build here for that purpose.
Yeah, we talk about workforce housing, which is very important, but Huntersville is not a poor community. We have homes between $300,000 to $1 million. We have an excellent tax base residentially. Commercially, it does not support our budget. So therefore, moving forward within the 2040 plan, how we're going to increase our residential area, which is compromised, comparable to maintaining or putting money into our budget, has to be decided by the present board and working with the town manager and our budget manager. Workforce housing is very important. Affordable housing is very, very important. But as the economy and as inflation keeps increasing, it's hard to catch up and it's hard to build. What is it going to cost to build a home that's affordable? Is there a term called affordable homes anymore? When just to start construction is almost $200,000. So therefore, we have to reevaluate and and see where we can acquire possibly land as a town to build homes. The county of Mecklenburg has already done it. They acquired land where they can build affordable housing, possibly partnering with them, because the land is in Huntersville, possibly partnering with them so we can have that housing available for those that are in need or those that qualify for that particular housing.
Commissioner Partee, you were recently the subject of a radio show by WBT's Brett Jensen, and I want to give you a chance to respond. Public records show two of your fellow commissioners wrote emails to the mayor accusing you of condescension and explosive behavior. Commissioner Stacy Phillips says an incident in closed session was, quote, the definition of a hostile work environment. Commissioner Amber Kovac said she does not feel comfortable with interacting with you. Why should Huntersville voters put their trust in someone their colleagues have fears over?
First of all, I have no idea where that came from. And I emphatically deny their accusations. There are also witnesses that are in the same room. Now, mind you, as a law enforcement, as a retired homicide detective, I may have a strong sense of authority and presentation, but never raising in my life, do not raise my voice to anybody. So therefore, you would have to ask them, where is that coming from? What precipitated that? So you would have to talk to them. Because as I said before, there is a lawyer in the room, there's a mayor in the room, there's commissioners in the room. Now, if we get deep dive into this particular situation, I don't know where it's coming from. Absolutely do not.
Commissioner Boone, one of the emails was sent to you. How do you feel about Mr. Partee's response?
First of all, the situation was in a closed session, and legally I can't discuss what went on in a closed session. I did receive an email. I think that it starts with the leadership of the town that you would call another closed session and bring everybody involved in it, because you have to have a reason to go into closed session. You just can't say, we got to go in there and talk. We got to talk about land acquisition. We're going to talk about employee raises, or we can say, we're going to go in here and talk about this situation and work it out. That's what you do when you have a situation. You hear from all the parties, you discuss it in closed session, and let's hope that everybody can find a path to a better governing of the town.
Former Representative Clark.
Yeah, first of all, I was really disappointed that this story came out this way. I think it was, we've all been trying to keep this a positive experience where we're sharing what we're going to do for the town, and we're not trying to bring each other down. We want to highlight each other's strengths. And so I was very disappointed in that. I wasn't there, and so I can't speak to that. I personally believe women when they say they have a concern, but that's me in my life in this circumstance. I was not there. I don't want to try and weigh on it, but I do wish that this had not happened, because I think we need to keep the focus on the good things that Huntersville have and the positive things that each of us can do for Huntersville.
Commissioner Partee, would you like to respond to anything you just heard?
Nope.
As we talk about leadership styles, starting maybe with Mr. Partee, could you talk a little bit about your leadership style, both among commissioners and for the town, and why that is going to be a better leadership style as Huntersville mayor than the candidates next to you?
Well, absolutely. And I'm going to talk about my background in law enforcement. We went through an academy. You go through an academy for 6 months with your fellow cadets. And there's a learning curve, there's a relationship curve that you have to go through. Because in law enforcement, the person you work next to is the person that's protecting your life. And when you're in law enforcement, you take an oath to protect life and property and each other, even in the service. And you got to learn to trust that person, he trusts you. As commissioners, and I got to give Linda Bales, the mayor, credit, she called in the beginning of our term, she called in the League of Municipalities and set up a workshop whereby they have somebody come in and talk about relationships and bring us together as a body. But in order to get the gist of that workshop, you have to drop the curtain. You have to be vulnerable, and you have to talk about yourself. And in this works, and to become a cohesive town board, we have to know each other's vulnerabilities, and that was the purpose of the workshop. Not to embarrass anybody, but to see that we all are human and that we have vulnerabilities that we can work together. And the workshop failed because nobody wanted to reveal themselves. I've been in these workshops a lot. I've been in bias workshops, race relation workshops, and you sit down and you just let it all out. You might want to cry about what happened in your life and your background, and then you comfort that person. But to have a cohesive board moving forward, we have to have trust. We have to believe in each other and communication, absolutely. Now we have a diverse board. We have young, I'm 71 years old. I have a lot of wisdom. I have a lot of leadership experience, 71. And I can impart that to the younger commissioners on the board if they're open to receiving it. And that's how we can move forward. That's how I like to move forward as mayor and the new board.
I believe the question was management style. My style is to listen to people. There's a good story and a bad story. We just got to find out what's the best story for Huntersville. As a mayor, we assign commissioners to, let's say, the Chamber of Commerce, Visit Lake Norman, and we have a first seat and a second seat. And that first seat is there for 2 years. The first 6 months, commissioners are all excited. The last 6 months, they probably don't even go to the meetings. One of my ideas is you're going to still have the same two people there, but then we're going to switch. Number two becomes number one, number one becomes number two. That makes a stronger town commission. It gives bench strength to everybody. So if you're the CRTPO, Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization rep, and you're going down to Charlotte listening about traffic, that's great. You're the person that knows it. The guy that's number two, Well, you know what? He's going to go the next year. So he's just up to speed like everybody else and bring that message back to the board. But I've learned how to work with the town. I've been there for 8 years as a commissioner. I know the people who run the town, what doors to knock on, and they know that if I ask them a question, I want an answer, and I don't want any fluff about it. Tell me the good or the bad, and let's solve the problem. Jack Simino, who's just retiring from the planning organization of Huntersville, one of the smartest mans I know, he goes into a room, developers on this side, landowners over here, and then these citizens are in the middle. The first thing he says, okay, what's the problem? What's your solution? What's your solution? What's your solution? And that seems to work pretty well for me.
Ms. Clark?
Yeah, well, so I have a personal motto, and that is lead with my heart. And so if you meet me and work with me, you're gonna know that's how I choose to manage folks and work with folks. I always believe in seeing the good in all people, no matter which side of the aisle they're on or what their issue is. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And so that's where the foundation of my leadership style starts. As we're going forward in the town, we need to make sure we have a stable and clear and transparent leadership at the top of the town. And that's something that I think people are asking for. How can we learn more? How can we know more? And that's something I want to bring to the table, is making sure that we have, that our constituents have access to us, whether it's having a morning meeting like they do in Cornelius and having mayor's lunches, making sure that we're having people have access to us so that we know their issues and they can work with us, and having an open door policy. And then among the board, I mean, I fully believe that we have amazing candidates running this time around, so no matter who's on the board, we're gonna have a great team of people. But I think starting from the get-go, knowing that we trust each other and we have each other's backs and we all want what's best for Huntersville is gonna set the stage for a great board this coming year.
I want to talk about Laguna Bay. Have you guys heard of it?
No.
What?
Commissioner Partee, we're going to start with you because you have been very vocal with your position on this project. Just what is it about the project that led you to your opposition to it?
Joe, it is not opposition. It's called respect to the board. As an investigator, there was reasonable suspicion when a developer comes before the board and brings a project that has 63 issues. 63. That's insulting to me as a commissioner, thinking that you want to get your project across, you want to get your acceptance of the zoning change when the planning board says you have 62 issues you have to correct. To me, that's saying that what is going on? So therefore, I just questioned it. And when I questioned that particular issue, then the ceiling opened up. And I have a right to question, to protect the citizens, the people that elected me. And that's the issue with this developer. 62, why? You're gonna get this, because you have the vote? I don't know, but I cast a question, and then the rest is history.
Commissioner Boone, what do you think it is about this project that created so much intensity in the community?
Social media. It's, first of all, we never voted on Laguna Bay as a commission. It was a project that was outside of the box. The one good thing that Laguna Bay did for the town of Huntersville is it got people involved. More people understand what's going on in the planning department, the planning board, the town board, and I think it was an excellent learning tool. It was, it could have been done a lot differently, but I think that it's a positive for the town because it's got people involved.
Former Representative Clark.
Yeah, this project, if you looked at our 2040 plan for Huntersville and you put this project over it, that's where those 62 issues come from. And so it should never even been proposed to the board in the first place. It was never going to meet what we have planned for our town. And people were opposed to it. It was going to have a really negative impact on people's ability to travel that would have lived near there. And then I personally was not a big fan of it due to the use of our water. I mean, I'm a environmental steward. that was not a great use of water. We don't have unlimited water. We need to make sure we're protecting that natural resource, and it would have been a big impact on our community to put that much water in a man-made lake, and I think it would have had a negative impact in the long run.
What do you think is next for the site? Because the developer says the project's dead, but the land hasn't been sold, no new projects have been introduced. Next town board may have to consider a project there. What would you like to see? What do you think is upcoming? Do you think Laguna Bay is truly dead?
You asking me?
Let's go with Commissioner Boone.
Okay. I think it's, I don't think I will see it, or anybody who becomes mayor will see that project for some time. What's going there? I don't know, but I'll be open-minded to see any project that comes through there.
Commissioner Partee.
I'm going to do my Kreskin imitation. What is a farmland that's going to be probably developed into something that's useful for that area and low density traffic? At this time, I have no idea that that person still owns the property, but if they come back with a reasonable project that the community can accept, then we'll see moving forward.
Representative Clark.
Yeah, I mean, we know that project's going to be, or a project's going to go there eventually. And what I would like to see is a project that keeps the aesthetic of Huntersville in mind. You know, we have an aesthetic, if you look around, you can see how our community is growing and changing. And I want people to keep that in mind when they bring projects before the board. Yes, it was out of the box, but it didn't fit our town. And we need something that shows what the aesthetic of our town is and the passion and heart of our town, and not something that is kind of going to be transplanted and dropped there out of the sky with no fit to our town's aesthetics. So.
I want to thank all the candidates for being here. Commissioner Derek Partee, Commissioner Dan Boone, former Representative Christy Clark, certainly to Red Rocks Cafe, Channel 9 Eyewitness News, and thanks to the Charlotte Observer as well. Want to move on to closing statements, and we'll start this time on the right with Commissioner Derek Partee. You have a minute for your closing statement.
I just want to thank Red Rocks Channel 9 TV for having us debate and present our platform. As your mayor, I just want to let the constituents know I will represent your concerns. This is not about me. It's not meism, weism. It's about the town of Huntersville. I will also sit there and work with our town managers. We have excellent town managers who are running this town. They need a budget. They need a budget that will maintain the quality of life. As your mayor, I will work with them. I will work with the people in Raleigh. So, and I will also want to say that I will stand up for Huntersville. And I just need Huntersville to stand up for me as your mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Boone?
First of all, thank you for hosting this. Red Rock, thank you for having us. I'd like to start by saying to my two opponents that I respect each one of you. It's not easy to throw your hat into this ring, but my experience since 2009, I have been working with the town of Huntersville. I have the experience to take the town of Huntersville to the next level. Make no mistake about it. Come 2 or 3 weeks, Huntersville is going to have a new mayor. And it's very clear the three of us are completely different when it comes to our ideas. If you want Huntersville to look similar to Charlotte, this is your choice. If you want Huntersville to look like New York, here's your choice. If you want Huntersville to continue to be the best place to live in North Carolina, I'm your choice.
Mr. Boone. Well, thank you all for having us here. Really, appreciate it. When I was in Raleigh, I was known as a legislator who was accessible and transparent. I was also known as a bipartisan legislator. I was in the minority party, had to reach across the aisle. And so that has established how I am as a leader. And that means I put all those things aside and work for the town and the best people. I also had to go there to Raleigh, and you wouldn't believe this, but people would say, oh, you're from Charlotte. You represent Charlotte. And I would have to stop them and say, no, thanks. I live in Huntersville. That's where I represent. And Cornelius and Davidson, those are our towns, and they're the priority here. And so that would be my focus as mayor, is to make sure the focus is on Huntersville and the things that go on here. I have founded a small business with my husband. We have a law firm, and we hire people locally. And so I want to bring things like that to the town of Huntersville, where we have a small business here that employs people that actually live in our town, so that we can have an established and wonderful place to live. I hope that you will choose me for mayor, but if you don't, we have two great folks on the ballot as well, and I know that we will all work together and do great things in the future. And I do want to see Huntersville be Huntersville. I don't think it should ever be Charlotte, but I do think it should be a place where people call home. It's their hometown and they want to come back to. And so that's my plan for Huntersville. So thank you.
Well, thank you three for answering all of the questions. The town of Huntersville is very lucky. They have three experienced candidates on the ballot. It's probably the most interesting mayoral election in the state. Three candidates with experience, a lot of hot button issues over the past year, and certainly more to come in this town. We will have this coverage on Channel 9's website as well as online at The Observer and Neighborhood TV. We'll also have this coverage posted and airing.